I will call to order the work session of the Wilsonville City Council of March 17th at 6 p.m. I will start by asking council members for review of the agenda and items on consent. Are there any comments or issues? Okay. Are there any councilor concerns before we start the work session? Okay, we'll move to the first item on the pre-council work session agenda. And that's the SMART Annual Rider Survey results. Transit Director Dwight Brashear and Transit Management Analyst Ann McCracken.
All right, well, then we'll just kind of disperse with the introductions. Thank you, Mayor O'Neill. Members of the council, I am your Transit Director, Dwight Brashear, and I'm joined tonight by Ann McCracken. And every year we do a survey. If you can't measure it, then you can't manage it. I didn't say that, somebody much smarter than me did, but I believe it. And so in the even years, we do a demographic survey. In the odd years, we do a customer satisfaction survey. So we will do the customer satisfaction survey in the fall of this year. But we're here tonight to talk to you about the most recent demographic survey, who's riding SMART, but more importantly, where are they going, first and last mile. It tells us a lot. Demographic surveys tell us a lot about the activities of our customers, which is very important. I am a customer myself. I may have taken this survey possibly, but that being said, it's very important to the quality of our service that we know what our customers expect, and this is part of the way that we understand that. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ann, and she'll kind of go through the presentation.
Mayor, members of the City Council, thank you for this opportunity. In September of every year, we get an opportunity to touch base with our riders. And as Dwight mentioned, last year we did a demographic survey and also characteristics of their ride on our buses. So we conducted it on 2 Saturdays, and Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Our goal was to survey every trip in our service. And so we ended up collecting about 198 surveys. And last year, we started, seems to be going in and out. Okay.
Let's bring it over.
Okay. Last year, we were able to offer this survey online, which was great because some of our trips are rather short and people may not feel or want to fill out the entire survey in a 5-minute trip on the bus. So our participation rate was a little bit lower compared to our original survey done in 2018. And that's probably because our ridership is a little bit lower. It hasn't quite recovered from the COVID restrictions. And so, as Dwight mentioned, we do a survey every year, and so next year will be the rider satisfaction survey. We try and ask the same questions each survey so that we can compare apples to apples over time. And so, who rides our buses? And typically half are male. If you look at the slide, as far as women versus men, there's like, in some cases, there's a bit more male respondents versus female respondents, but I think because they're generally around the same numbers, it's pretty much half and half. Half of our respondents were aged between 30 to 65 years old. And in addition, half of them responded that they were Caucasian, or they identified as Caucasian. and then followed by 22% that identified as Latino and Hispanic. In addition, another characteristic is that 35% of the respondents said they do not have a working vehicle in their household. So as far as rider characteristics, this is kind of what we're really looking for in this, because we want to know how the service is meeting folks' needs and if there's anything we can do to help them get to their destination with more convenience or more timely or what have you. And so when we ask folks, you know, how often are you riding this service? Most of them said frequently. So that means several times a week or almost every day, which is fabulous. And a majority of them said that they walk to their bus stop. And a majority of them said that they walk once they get off the bus to their final destination. Over half said that they were coming from home, and then almost 20% were traveling from work. About an equal percentage said that they were going home or going to work, which was interesting. And we always ask, if they didn't have this ride, how would they get to their destination? They said one of their choices was driving alone. And so what's interesting is we've been alternating this survey since 2018 with the exception of 2020 and 2021 due to COVID restrictions. The response rate for driving alone has dropped. So in 2018, 29% of respondents said that they drive alone. And then 2022, that dropped to 15%, and then last year was 12%. So I think that's great.
Can you be specific about
That is saying that they are not automatically going into their car. That's how I'm interpreting that. They're not automatically going to driving alone in their vehicle. So that's why I say I think that's a good indicator. It's going in the right direction.
It suggests that they have other options, which is something that SMART promotes as well. So we have an options program, and so we work with folks that are interested in, believe it or not, walking, biking, van pooling, that type of thing. So we offer.
So Dwight, your conclusion is then that they are taking this as a choice rather than a necessity?
Yes.
Thank you.
When asked why they ride SMART, a majority of them said that they don't have a vehicle. And the next most common response was that it saves money, and that follows by convenience. Another interesting note with this response is that less stressful has increased from 18% in 2022 to 30%, which I think is it's a nice trend to see. So when we do the demographic rider characteristic in 2026, again, it'll be interesting to see if that trend continues. And so with that, I will leave it open to questions.
I'm going to push back on you a little bit. Don't answer twice. So you said if they didn't have public transport, the driving alone responses dropped. Was there a response despite driving alone? Would it be they would have walked? They would have rode with a friend? I'm concerned that, and this is more me to seek to understand, is that you're showing that the number of individuals, a significant number, do not have automobiles, which would mean that they couldn't drive alone. And it looks like that number is actually going up, the number of individuals that don't have automobiles as a percentage. So they can't drive alone as an option. So I'm wondering if you're actually considering that in your calculations. So I wouldn't necessarily call that great news. I think it leads to another question, is if they couldn't take the bus, would they walk? Or would they, possibly ask a friend to go? So I think you have to find a way to take that into your equation. And then the other thing that I would love to see, that I don't see on this, is whether or not they rent or own their home. Because I think that speaks a little bit more to the demographic that we're serving, and also, are they coming or going from multifamily housing as opposed to a single-family home? Thanks.
Well, you're welcome. I would say that some people, just like choosing to ride smart, some people choose not to own a car. And part of that reason is because of smart. And I've talked to a number of folks in the 8 years that I've been here, and a number of them, older residents of Wilsonville said they moved here because in their research, they understood that SMART was a robust service within the city of Wilsonville, and it was fare-free. And so that influenced their decision to actually move to Wilsonville. So I would suggest that there are some people that choose not to own a car because we do have a pretty good transit system.
And I think that's why that has to be included in the survey questions.
If I don't know what, you guys have electronic packets, but in my hard copy here, page 14 of that survey, does do a breakdown of the answer choices on
Uber and
drive alone, carpool, dial a ride, walk, bike,
Yeah.
taxi, Uber, Lyft, get a ride from someone,
yeah,
or I would not make it. And those percentages are all provided.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, of my packet, I don't know what it is on your,
Yeah, I see that too.
but it does appear that 22 some odd percent are transit dependent, if I'm reading that survey correct.
Yeah. Yep, thank you.
And I think within that, Brian, some of those transit-dependent folks are by choice,
Right.
transit-dependent,
Yep.
not
Yes.
simply because
Yeah,
they choose not, they can't afford a car. And we can certainly do some massaging of questions for the next round. Ask the question, do you own a home or do you rent?
Yeah, and I would actually like to see if it's rental, is it multifamily housing?
Okay,
Thanks.
yeah.
Dwight, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Did I understand that the survey was done in September?
Yes.
For how long again?
Roughly a week. I don't think it was quite 7 days, but our goal is to, and we hire an outside staffing firm, and our goal is to survey all of our routes. Not every trip, but we have the 1X, so we have like 8 routes, and so we want to make sure we cover all of those routes over that period at different times throughout the day and throughout that week.
Okay, so my question is on survey participation. You're asking people on the bus to fill out the survey in part, and
Yes.
also, okay. Have we ever thought of, maybe we've done it, so this isn't a criticism of, in the summer months when we have people actually coming to events, they ask them to fill out a survey at a tent to get more input, just to have, because if I was on a bus, well, now I would fill out the survey because I get in trouble, but I would probably not be inclined to do a survey because I'm too busy trying to get to where I'm going on. So I'm just wondering if there's some thought to a different time and place for a survey to get more
Sure.
input.
I think it would be easy for us to do that. We participate in all of the party in the park. And
You're very good at that.
set up
So,
booths and things like that, so that wouldn't be hard for us to do.
okay, just a thought.
Right. But we do offer, and you're right, I think I was sitting next to someone and they kind of pointed out that the survey was like 6 pages or something like that. And the incentive is there is a Amazon gift card, there are entered into a raffle. And so that usually is incentive enough for, if you're on a 5-minute ride, you're probably not going to do it, and that's why we offered the online option. But I ride from Wilsonville to Canby, and on that trip, everybody was doing the survey, and they had plenty of time because generally they're riding from Wilsonville Transit Center to Canby Transit Center, which is about a 25-minute ride.
That makes sense. Well, thank you for just thinking about that.
Oh, yeah,
So.
no problem at all.
I just want to thank you for conducting the survey. I was in the audience and listened to your satisfaction survey that you presented, I believe, last summer, perhaps.
Yes.
And you're absolutely correct. If you don't measure it, you can't make decisions about how you can improve those types of things. So I really appreciate the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Have you done any additional surveys? And I'm always thinking about the last mile. So how, is there a way, and it might be almost impossible to do, to include within that survey after you're dropped off on the bus? Do you walk more than 3 blocks to your final destination, a mile, 50 feet, whatever, but provide some of those options in the survey too?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we've tried to design a system where you're not, I think we were trying to work within a half mile or less from a bus stop. If we could get that down to a quarter mile, that would be great. But we do offer dial-a-ride service that is a door-to-door service that folks seem to absolutely love. So,
This is off topic, but how many dial-a-rides do you do a year?
she would be the best person.
Just estimate? I know that data is out there somewhere.
General estimate, we do about 1,000 a month, so it would be around 12,000.
Yeah, and that's significant. Yeah. Yeah. That's the creme de la creme service, and the folks that use it absolutely love it. And they love the drivers. I think it's that relationship that they have. So.
Dwight, I was wondering if there is a thought process, and this may fall within the administration of the city, so of adding to the survey a question, if there was a reliable west commuter train from Portland to Salem, would that increase the likelihood of utilizing smart transit?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think in the satisfaction survey, which is coming up this year, that would probably be a really good question. What would, basically make your ride more, thorough, more complete, more enjoyable? And we can ask the West Train question. If the West Train was extended to, say, Salem or even Eugene, how likely are you?
Yeah, with 85, I think it's 85% of our residents commuting outside, and we have, 91% of people coming to Wilsonville to work. My marriage was saved by moving to Wilsonville because I was working in Salem. My wife was in Portland, so I can imagine if I had a train option, I would be on it. So anyway, thank you for considering that.
Oh, you're welcome.
I have a couple questions. So the first one is what the key difference was from this survey, from the past surveys. And then I was under the impression that we had a lot more students riding transit. So was the survey taken in September during the school year? And did the kids have an opportunity to fill out the survey, or how should that be addressed?
Regarding the students on the bus, we have an incredible amount of student ridership on Route 4. One of the issues, or I'll say complications really about doing a survey during the times that the students ride, is that you may have 40 kids crammed into the bus, and they're only traveling, say, 5 minutes. Even though we have surveyors on those trips, we get very low participation rate, which is understandable. That's one of the reasons why our average, or our half of our folks that responded are between the age of 35 and 60. It's very tough to get at those students. It may require a different approach rather than cramming on the bus with 40 other kids and, trying to hand this out and interact with them.
Without giving a whole lot away, those buses, and we usually put them back to back. There are two buses that will travel Wilsonville Road and pick up students at both of the middle school and then the high school. These are not the trips where everybody's in their seat always and sitting there looking straight forward and that type of thing. So we manage those trips, and we're working, especially with the middle school, working with the principal, and then we have supervisors that are on site there and helping to kind of shepherd everybody. So it's not we're doing everything that we can just to get them from point A to point B.
Yeah, and,
safely.
which
So
is
it would
well
be-
understood.
Yeah.
But is there a way, like, maybe you already did and I just missed it, to capture that we have a lot of a lot of youth in our community that are students riding the bus? Because I think that's an important thing to recognize.
Yeah, and SMART is extremely popular with the students. They tend to, especially the electric buses, they seem to like those.
Are you asking,
Those quite a bit.
are you asking, do we track how many students use it?
Well, it's somewhere in a report somewhere.
Yeah. Are you asking if we track it, though?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. We do track that.
do.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, that's how we know to put extra. We do put extra. It's the only route that we have where we actually put extra buses out on that service too, because we don't want any kid, young person, to have to stand. It's not safe, and so instead of allowing them to stand, everybody gets a seat, and we put a second bus out there and they know there's two buses, so there's no pushing or shoving or anything like that. And I don't think one bus is better than the other. They're both going the same. They're
Yeah.
both going the same ways.
I'm just wondering if, for the public that's reading this report, if maybe there should be an asterisk under the age bracket saying, there are more numbers than this.
Oh, sure.
Or to Council President Barry's point, you could just do a head count and create a different slide and give us an idea of how many students are riding the bus at any given,
That would be very
sometime.
easy.
That'd be easy to do and just create a different slide. But I agree. I think just highlighting the fact that you have that particular demographic and that it has some pretty strong numbers would
Well,
be helpful.
Especially when it's a free service
Yeah.
that the city offers.
We do track on a daily basis, trip by trip, youth and adults and a couple other categories. And typically, we could see 300 to 350 youth trips or passengers on a daily basis. And when school's out, we drop. So to me, that says these are school-age youths who are using our service.
Thank you.
Well, I think, though, getting back to Councilor Barry's comment, I completely agree, by the way, because this is a publicly available document, and the value to our community, safety, convenience, traffic. I mean, I could just start naming all of the benefits to the community by having all of these high schoolers in particular that are not driving a car or having a way to get from point A to point B during the school year. So at least making sure that that is notated within this report, even though they were not surveyed. Or also possibly finding another means to be able to measure that and include that in a separate type of survey, maybe putting a QR code, at the school or whatever, and give them a different kind of reward if they complete it.
Okay.
I'm just to conclude, I mean, I find the report really informative, and I appreciate that SMART's doing that, and I think it's really important, so thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next item in the pre-council work session is property tax exemptions.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm Catherine Smith, the city's Assistant Finance Director. Before you later this evening on City Council consent agenda are tax exemption requests for low-income housing held by charitable nonprofit organizations. This is an annual process typically including 5 area complexes. The tax exemption aims to reduce the property tax burden on agencies providing affordable housing opportunities for low-income renters and must be approved by council each year. In total, 365 units are currently available for low-income housing under this program. All properties are required to meet state and federal funding requirements, which include annual physical inspections, an annual audit of financial activity, and programmatic compliance. Further, while the state allow these organizations to offer rates that are lower than the required rental rates to qualified tenants. The properties requesting continuance of the property tax exemption status for low-income housing include Autumn Park, Charleston, Creekside Woods, Rain Garden, and Whiteman Park Apartments. Further detail is also available in the staff report, starting on page 70 of your City Council packet. And that concludes our presentation. Are there any questions?
I know that this is a program that the city's supported for a while. Do you remember when it started with the city?
Before I got here, so.
Yeah, forever.
At least 15 years, if not 20, I would have said.
In 1985, the Oregon legislation authorized a property tax exemption. I can look further to see when the city started this program, but that's when the state
I think
authorized.
just knowing that it's been more than 15 years is good. Thank
Yes.
you.
Yeah, great program. Any other questions?
Yeah, actually have some comments and
Yeah,
feedback
thank
for
you.
the rest of council. So, as most of you know, I'm pretty highly tuned right now in housing. And tax exempt it can be great, but it can also be a reduction in revenues to the city. So I think that's something we should always keep an eye on. And I think that if we're talking about code and making sure that these are kept in great condition, because they are particularly income assisted and low income housing, it should be high on our radar. So I took the time and drove through every one of these communities. And I actually spoke to some of the residents. And one of the things that I heard over and over again was they're pleased with the quality, they're pleased with the upkeep, and that their landlords are doing a great job. As a matter of fact, Autumn Park, which you hear there's quite a bit of police activity over there because it is low income and it's a really large community. I drove through that one on the way over here tonight and spoke with one of the residents. He's lived there for 16 years. He has a very small business. He speaks both English, he's bilingual, and he actually spoke specifically about how quickly they are to respond. Everything's painted, it's in great shape, there's good response whenever there's an issue, but I want to take it a step further because they have a central park within the development, within the community. There were so many kids in there playing basketball and talking to each other and families around. It truly felt like more of a community than some of the other apartment communities that we see in Wilsonville. So, and I know that some of the others are Wiedemann, and I think,
Rain Garden.
yeah, well, Rain Garden is specifically for behavioral health. And, some of the, when I toured that a couple of years ago, some of the original residents of Damish are living there now, which is quite a testament to the continuation of some of our responsibilities to some of our neediest citizens. So I think it's something that we always have to make sure that we're paying attention to. Given all of the conversations I had and all of the work that I did on it this time, I'm in full support of us continuing on these resolutions for the tax abatements.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nothing else?
Thank you so much.
Okay, we're ahead of schedule by 4 minutes. We'll adjourn and we'll resume at 7 o'clock. I call to order the meeting of the Wilsonville City Council for March 17th, 2025 at 7:01 p.m. Will the city recorder please call the roll?
Councillor Shevlin?
Here.
Council President Barry?
Here.
Councillor Cunningham?
Here.
Councillor Dunwell?
Here.
Mayor O'Neill?
Here. Okay, let's please stand and join for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Council President Barry, can I have a motion to approve the following order of agenda?
I move to approve the following order of the agenda.
Is there a second?
I second.
The motion to approve the following order of agenda has been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Good evening, everyone, and for those that celebrate, happy St. Patrick's Day. And I do celebrate, so in case you're guessing. We had a city council retreat, and I would like to share some things and review some highlights of that. It occurred on Friday and this past Saturday. Every 2 years, as city council members, as we come and go, the newly constituted city council takes time to review key city issues. Based on this review and the topics that are most concerned to each city council member, the council works with a facilitator to develop a set of specific goals and objectives for the city to accomplish over the next 2 years. As part of the process, city staff leadership from all city departments comes in over the weekend, which I'm very grateful for, and spends a great deal of time helping us to make an effective decision-making. Based on the weekend's retreat and goal-setting session, I have some personal observations that I want to share with you all. Later on in this meeting, councilors will maybe share their own perspectives. To begin, council spent a considerable time considering the existing context and climate, including current political factors at the federal, state, and local levels, the financial climate given the uncertainties at the state and federal level concerning funding, technology factors, customer needs, uncertainties related to the global economy, cost of construction, and supply chain challenges. We also discuss key staff departures that will occur in 2025, including the Government and Public Affairs Director, Mark Ottenod, Community Development Director, Chris Namsu, and City Manager, Brian Cosgrove. The council is aware that if the next city manager is an external candidate, they will need time and grace to get up to speed and establish relationships with the council and staff. If they are an internal candidate, time would still be needed for their effective transition into their new role and to find someone to fill their prior role in the city. In short, progress on council goals may require some initial patience by us as councilors and you and the members of the community. The council coalesced around some broad themes and identified some specific goals under these themes. Under the umbrella of public health, safety, and welfare, the council identified the following goals: streamline response to code enforcement challenges, expand on-the-ground mental health resources to support the community, evaluate and update the public nuisance code, and explore a rental inspection program, including identifying potential revenue streams to fund such a program. The council also discussed the current and future fiscal health of the city's many operating funds, and developed specific goals under the heading of financial outcomes, including exploring cost savings, efficiencies, and alternative revenue options for sustainable fiscal health. Future-proof revenues and avoid large rate spikes in the sewer, water, and stormwater funds by indexing these utilities to a CIP index. Additionally, the council spent a great deal of time discussing ways the city can build trust through communication and community engagement. The following goals were established. Engage the community on urban renewal and other infrastructure funding sources. Create a town-centered communication engagement strategy to help inform council direction. Evaluate and improve online engagement and social media tools to expand our audience and reach within the community. Lastly, the council advanced a goal to ensure the current levels of parks maintenance is provided for the long term, as the city's parks portfolio continues to grow, with an additional 30 acres of maintenance responsibility coming online in the next 2 to 3 years. In short, the goal is to maintain existing maintenance levels of service with upcoming parks expansion by identifying additional revenue opportunities and potential cost savings. I look forward to hearing my colleagues' perspectives later in the meeting. I thought everyone at the table worked extremely hard to find ways to move our city forward during these uncertain times. And I am so grateful for the help of the staff who came in on the weekend. I would presume they would have wanted to do something else. On another note, with respect to diversity, equity, and inclusion, I would like to observe the dates and events by the city's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. During the month of March, we celebrate Women's History Month, the Muslim observance of Ramadan, and the Hindu Festival of Holi, also known as the Festival of Colors. Turning to legislative testimony that I've provided on behalf of the city, I'm going to go through that now. Working with city staff, legislators, and community members, I have provided written and oral testimony to various legislative committees on a number of bills on topics of interest of the city. The City Council's adoption of the legislative agenda and specific set of 2025 legislative priorities is very helpful in screening the hundreds of bills now being heard by the Oregon Legislature. Testimony that the city has submitted over the past few weeks includes the following. Testimony in support of Senate Bill 179, which restores recreational immunity for landowners who allow free public access to trails and recreational activities. This is an important issue for Wilsonville residents and all Oregonians who enjoy walking, hiking, and recreating on trails and areas open to public. Testimony supporting an amended House Bill 3031-1. Here, the city urged a large scope of residential infrastructure resources that could substantially advance state goal for housing production. This is the Governor's Office Housing Infrastructure Financial Bill, which is too limited in scope and funding. Lack of funding is kind of key to a lot of this legislation this time. In particular, we advocate for funding of off-site infrastructure improvements, such as Wilsonville's $18 million Beckman Road Sewer Interceptor Project to serve housing proposed for the new urban growth areas of Frog Pond. Related, we also recommended developing different standards for infill and small projects versus large urban growth areas, such as Frog Pond, that have no existing infrastructure. Testimony supporting House Bill 3560. This proposed legislation addresses critical need to improve child care availability that benefits both working families and employers. For years, Wilsonville has heard from families, employers, and employees about the shortage of child care options, which limits workforce participation and hinders business ability to recruit and retain employees. Testimony in support of House Bill 2679, sponsored by Representative Courtney Neuron. This proposed legislation restricts the use of products containing a powerful class of pesticides shown to be harmful to pollinators in the agricultural industry. In June of 2013, Wilsonville was the site on private property of reportedly the largest pollinator bumblebee kill in the history of the United States, a distinction that our community does not relish. And this was all due to the application of this particular pesticide by trained professional applicators. This powerful class of pesticides has been shown conclusively to harm pollinators throughout the life cycle of the product, with detrimental effects continuing long after initial treatment, since plants take up the pesticide into their tissues. Testimony supporting an amended version of House Bill 2138-1. This bill is one that was not ready for prime time. The bill contains ambiguous phrases and a lack of clarity in some sections that may result in unintended consequences detrimental to the state goal of increased middle housing production. The city's proposed amendments to House Bill 2138-1 would provide greater clarity and remove uncertainty that allows local governments and developers to focus on producing more middle housing residential development. I'm almost done. Testimony in support of House Bill 3503. This bill would support an innovative housing plan by Clackamas County that provides an opportunity for older homes to be acquired by lower income residents who can become homeowners. Clackamas County seeks to sell over 140 older homes with high maintenance costs from a portfolio known as scattered sites. Due to disinvestment over time by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, this kind of voucher support housing is no longer being subsidized. Testimony supporting House Bill 3700 that addresses the pressing issue of a lack of trained water and wastewater operators. We also have supported a similar bill, Senate Bill 1086. Legislation provides for state agencies' collaboration to increase the number of qualified building inspectors who can help with housing production. And finally, I personally testified in support of Housing Bill 3453. This bipartisan legislation is co-sponsored by Representative Kevin Maddox of North Salem and Kaiser, a Republican, and by our Representative Courtney Neron, a Democrat from Wilsonville. The bill creates the West Side Express Service Authority to assume operational responsibility of WES for the West Side Express Service commuter train from TriMet. HB 3453 provides the opportunity to improve I-5 commuting and mobility options between the Portland metropolitan area and the North Willamette Valley Salem Kaiser metro area with a reliable, high-capacity public transit alternative. The primary reason that WES has failed to live up to ridership targets is that WES currently only operates with a limited schedule and acts only as an intercity suburban connector for Beaverton, Tigard, Tualatin, and Wilsonville. Connecting the greater Portland and Salem-Kaiser metro areas offers the opportunity to greatly enhance ridership and supporting revenue generation. Over the past month, I participated in a number of meetings with local area elected officials and community members, and I am going to submit my written record to the recorder, so if anybody has an interest, they can read intensely all these meetings. I'm not going to cover all of them. There's one, though, I think it's important for the community to understand. I recently participated in an hour-long meeting with Congresswoman Andrea Salinas, Representative Neron, Metro Councilor Christine Lewis, Oregon Department of Transportation Director Chris Strickler, along with staff from the elected officials, ODOT, and the city. The purpose of this meeting was to receive an update from ODOT on the current status of the I-5 Boone Bridge seismic replacement project and discuss potential next steps. Unfortunately, ODOT does not have a funding plan for the next phase of work, which is estimated to cost between $3 to $5 million and potentially as much as 7 to 8 million. Even more concerning is that the costs to reach the final design are expected to be in the tens of millions of dollars. And this does not even include construction costs, which could easily exceed $1 billion. We need to approach this massive project step by step, much like tackling any large challenge. Realistically, given the increasing dysfunction of the federal government under the new administration and the unilateral rescinding of congressionally approved funding, we are uncertain about the level of support we can expect from our federal partners. The state, which relies on federal funds for portions of Oregon's budget, is also potentially in a precarious situation. Nonetheless, ODOT has provided us with a set of proposed next steps, along with estimated cost. We will work closely with Congresswoman Salinas and Representative Neron to seek the necessary funds to advance the next phase of the I-5 Boone Bridge project. As we all know, this is a priority for Wilsonville that should also be a state and federal priority. And I have a number of meetings upcoming that I'm going to skip. After the city council retreat, which was pretty long, I had I had a meeting, it was actually a gathering on Saturday evening following that retreat. Yumi and I had the honor of attending the 8th annual Ramadan potluck gathering at Meridian Creek Middle School. During Ramadan, Muslims fast from sunrise to sunset. It was a significant event with hundreds of community members of the Muslim faith in attendance. I had the opportunity to engage with many members, gathering their input on various community concerns. I was then asked by the board of the Wilsonville the Wilsonville Muslim Center community to speak on inclusion, community engagement, and civic action. I expressed my gratitude for their efforts in partnering with the city to gather much needed supplies for Wilsonville community sharing. And their food was delicious, by the way. And Zoe Mombert was highly praised by the board and gathering. So thank you, Zoe, for being a great ambassador. And lastly, I want to note that next Saturday, March 22nd at 3 p.m., Senator Aaron Woods is holding a town hall. This will be at, I believe, OIT, if I remember correctly, but it's on the city's website for more information. It might be the library. Oh, is it now the library? Okay, so now it's the library, but go on the, for the latest, go on the city website for the location. Okay, the last item to note is our next meeting of the City Council is for Monday, April 7th, starting at 7 p.m. We have no presentation scheduled for tonight, so, all right. Next, citizen input and community announcements. So we'll move now to the community input and announcements portion of the City Council meeting agenda. This is the opportunity for visitors to address the City Council on any matter concerning city's business or any matter over which the council has control. It is also the time to address items not on the agenda. It is also the time to address items that are on the agenda but not scheduled for a public hearing. Staff will make every effort to respond to questions raised during community input as quickly as possible following the council meeting. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. To comment before council in person or virtually, you must sign up either by completing a speaker card at the side of the room or by using the raise hand feature in Zoom. You will need to provide your name, address, and topic you will be discussing. Information on engaging with City Council can be found on the City Council's webpage, ci.wilsonville.or.us/City Council. As a reminder, when you begin your comment, state your name for the record and state your address, or state that your address is provided on your speaker card. Please note that this is not the only way to communicate with the council or me. You're welcome to submit information in writing or via email. Additionally, I encourage you to schedule a meeting with me or any of the other councilors to discuss your concerns further. With that, I will call Ms. Doris Whaler.
Doris Whaler, and my address is on file. Good evening, councilors and Mayor O'Neill. My topic tonight is let's take care of what we have. Before the pandemic, brick and mortar stores were declining. We continue to see retail closures and more online ordering. High inflation and the Amazon effect are showing up in headlines. Clackamas Town Center, built with urban renewal funds, is financially failing. Let's take stock of what we have here in Wilsonville. We have a lot of wonderful parks and great people living here. We also have black mold in apartments, high taxes, and unaffordable housing. We have a need for more child care services, like the mayor mentioned. And some parents are moving away from public schools in favor of charter or homeschooling. We are constantly complaining about traffic, and we already heard tonight how long it's going to take to get to Boone's Bridge. The state is requiring us to plan for more multi-unit housing, legislating us away from building single-family homes. This seems unfair, since Wilsonville already has the highest multi-family housing and highest rentals per capita in the state. The state is pushing us to do more planning beyond the 1,600 units planned for Frog Pond East and South. The population of Oregon has been static for the last 4 years. Could it be that the state's population forecasts are incorrect? Instead of always developing more, maybe we should focus and maintain on improving what we have. With the high cost of land, let's accept that Wilsonville cannot be affordable for everyone. The only way to make housing affordable is to subsidize it. Let's make our current apartments more livable by requiring landlords to clean up black mold. We have a town center redevelopment plan, but the city has told us the only way to fund infrastructure is through urban renewal. Do we want to use urban renewal to change the fundamental character of our city to an urban stack and pack? For an honest answer, we need to change our charter to require a binding vote on urban renewal projects. Let's all take care of the Wilsonville that we love and slow down planning for even more. Thank you.
George Dunn.
Hello, I'm George. Happy St. Patty's Day to everybody. I wrote my notes down this time. Address on the card. Recently, I had the opportunity to visit the Grand Ronde Museum and Cultural Center, and one of the exhibits there really stuck with me. At one point in the exhibit, you walk into this room and it's full of sticky notes and pieces of paper left by past visitors, each responding to the question, what do you wish for your community in the future? Among all the hopes and dreams written in there were the words, I wish for paths to and from each other's doors. That response deeply resonated with me. It reminded me that paths, just like community, don't form on their own. They're built. They're built through intentional effort, by walking in a line over and over again, by eliminating obstacles, and by paving a way that connects all of us together. Community is no different. It requires thoughtful planning and deliberate action to thrive. This leads me to reflect on our own community and what kind of ancestors will we be for the generations to come. Will they see us as the ones who sacrificed our most precious land right in the heart of our town for sprawling parking lots, vacant stores, roads built only for cars, and a spirit of isolation and individualism? Or will they know us as ones who crafted meaningful spaces where people could gather, live, laugh, and grow? Will they thank us for building a culture of connection, tradition, and shared joy, a place of community? The choices we make today will echo for years to come. They'll define our legacy and shape the community we leave behind. When I think about the work that's already been done, things like the town center plan, the trail over by Beckman Creek, these projects fill me with pride and hope for that future, hope for my kid. These projects are stepping stones towards that future of true connection and paths to each other's doors. But this future isn't guaranteed. It is up to us to seize it, to seize the opportunity to build it. Community doesn't just happen, it's something we must choose to create together. So I ask that this council, staff, and community, that we keep moving Wilsonville forward, clearing the way for a brighter, more connected future. Thank you, and thank you to the city manager and the staff for all the work you've done in creating this community. I love Wilsonville in this place, so thank you. That's all.
Eric Winters.
Eric Winters here. I'm a resident of Wilsonville. My address is on file. Mayor, members of the City Council, good evening and happy St. Patrick's Day. 2 weeks ago, the City Council held a work session where staff presented the council with options to proceed with the town center plan in the wake of a failure to obtain voter approval. Staff seemed very insistent that the city's best option was to stick with the failed plan. Their arguments centered around the efforts that staff had made to solicit community involvement in that plan. At one point, a word cloud was put up to show the various types of ideas and suggestions that came from parts of the community. The largest word in the cloud, you may have noticed, was pool. Well, despite that being the top request from members of the community, a pool does not appear in the town center plan. Why is that? Well, there's a couple of reasons. The obvious one is that Wilsonville voters already turned down a bond measure to support a community pool. But the less obvious reason is that a community pool would probably not produce enough taxable value for borrowing under urban renewal. Those were more than enough reasons to keep a pool out of town center. But doesn't this call into question the methodology of the plan's designers with regard to outreach? Their word cloud, I noticed, did not include any requests for a hyper-dense vertical neighborhood in the center of town. More importantly, the participants in the outreach were never asked whether they were willing to accept a hyper-dense vertical neighborhood in exchange for these town center upgrades. If I were to poll my children about what features their dream house would have, I'm pretty sure they could come up with quite a list. If I told them that we could buy that house, they'd be over the moon. But then if I had to reveal that every one of us in the household would have to get extra jobs and then we'd be eating ramen for as long as we could foresee, well, they might have a different view. And that's the sort of trade-off that's happening with town center. The only difference is that the staff seems convinced that fulfilling this wish list created by community outreach is more important than coming clean about the trade-off of plopping a hyper-dense vertical neighborhood into the most trafficked part of the city. Why didn't they ask this question? It's fairly obvious. They didn't want to hear the answer. But the cat is out of the bag. Too many people know that the town center plan would permit a neighborhood with more people than Villebois into an area that is 1/5 its size. So it's up to you on this council to ask the voters the unasked question. If you ask it fairly and you stand prepared to deal with the outcome, we can all move forward as a city.
Nathan Lawrence.
All right. Mr. Mayor, members of the council and staff, I am Nathan Lawrence. My address is on the card. I have lived in Wilsonville for more than 40 years. I am married and the father of 4 and have owned and operated a business here during this time. I am also a Christian pastor and a Bible teacher. During this time as a Bible-believing Christian, I have worked hard in my spheres of influence to preach the gospel of love, respect, and justice for all, which my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ taught, lived, and for which he died. Recently, I reviewed the City of Wilsonville's Charter and Code of Ordinance, the June 2024 version. I was curious to see what it contained concerning the city's function in serving the citizens of this city who fund it. And the charter implies how taxpayer funds are to be spent. One thing that the charter did not contain was anything relating to diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, or the promotion of the LGBTQ agenda. Yet city resources, including the taxes that I pay, have been allocated to promote DEI, wokeism, and the LGBTQ lifestyle in the Boones Ferry Messenger during the so-called Pride Month, along with articles informing us which pronouns to use and encouraging the public to accept the so-called alternative lifestyles, along with DEI, woke values, and something that is offensive and immoral to many of us and is against our nation's traditional and my biblical values. Most recently, our new mayor in the February 2025 edition of the Boones Ferry Messenger, in the mayor's message, on page 1 announced that one of the city's key agendas was to promote DEI. Sean, you called it our North Star. Quote, who is the our to which you are referring? After 40 years of living in Wilsonville and having a business here, I know thousands of people, and I personally know that many of whom would take a great offense in being included in your DEI agenda. Since when has it been the mandate of the city to engage in social engineering endeavors? I do not recall that we, the people, ever voted for this. DEI is definitely not my North Star. The Bible, the Word of God, is. Therefore, I formally request and respectfully demand that the city of Wilsonville cease and desist any promotion of DEI, wokeism, or the LGBTQ agenda. If public officials want to pontificate regarding DEI at all, let them do so on their own time and at their own expense. It is a free country. But please be reminded that it is your job to fix the potholes, to keep the water and the sewage flowing, to maintain the parks, to protect us from criminals and the like, but not to promote the so-called wokeism or DEI, which, by the way, is currently falling into disfavor all across the nation since the most recent regime change in Washington, D.C. Even major corporations like Walmart, Target, Facebook, Meta, Disney, too many more to mention, are moving away from this and getting back to the business of conducting their businesses. So I urge the city to do the same, get back to the business of running the city and taking care of the things that are delineated in the city charter. May the Lord God bless you, Jesus Christ, the Messiah, the God of the Bible, as long as we do the right thing. Thank you for your time and your attention, and thank you for your service to our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Rooney.
Hello, my name is Mary Rooney, and my address is listed on the speaker card. Mayor and councilors, thank you for the opportunity to speak. Good schools can attract people to a city, and many people in Wilsonville made the choice to move here because of our schools. Schools are not simply places where children are taught. They are sources of community pride and celebration. We have sports teams, musical performances, plays in the incredible High School Performing Arts Center, the robotics program, and various events put on each year to inspire fun, learning, and civic engagement. They are a place where friendships take root and neighbors find common ground. Our schools lay the groundwork for teaching our kids to participate in society, and each student's school is a part of their personal identity. Our schools impact our local economy. Schools attract people and families, and businesses and services follow. Through school fundraisers, a number of local businesses come forward and lend their generosity while showcasing their products and services. Years of underfunding has threatened Oregon schools and their ability to provide a quality education to our students. Our district is facing a $15 million shortfall in the next biennium. Enrollment hasn't returned to pre-COVID numbers, and PERS obligations and operating costs have gone up. During this current legislative session, 2 House bills address the need for more funding for special education. Those bills are 2448 and 2953, and I encourage strong support. The Westland-Wilsonville School District is one of a few in the state that follows a fully inclusive model, which means that children in special education are included in general classes. We are the largest district in the state that follows this model. I think that full inclusion is great in theory. I love that my daughter is able to understand and articulate that her close friends and valued classmates have different supportive needs, or that their brains might work a little differently. But when these children don't receive the adequate support that they deserve, everyone's learning can be disrupted. In order for this model to be successful with best outcomes for students, funding and adequate staffing is required. With the likely abolishment of the Department of Education, our schools, our students, and our teachers will feel the impact. We have school board elections coming up in May, and I encourage everyone to pay attention to the issues facing our schools and make a plan to vote. Even if you don't have kids in the district, please plan to vote. Our schools are important and valued spaces in our city, and our youngest residents and our teachers who guide them deserve our support. Thank you.
Elizabeth Peters.
Mayor and Council, I'm Liz Peters, and my address is on file. Rick and I attended your retreat on Saturday and saw the time and energy that you gave to represent your constituents. I feel really good about the process and the agreements that you reached, so thank you. During the retreat, our city staff shared all the work they do to communicate with the public. How many newsletters and websites they brought up. Yikes, we're doing a lot of work. And staff acknowledged that the message is not getting through. I was so encouraged to hear that. It's easy to think that we're really good at what we do, and we miss the benefit of improvement. For 13 years, I was director of communications for 2 of Oregon's strongest trade associations. At one, I was responsible for reaching the state's largest private sector employer group and its 180,000 plus employees. I understand the frustration of doing a lot of work to get a message across and then having people complain about not being informed. In my nursery association job, I learned that real communication is two-way. It starts with listening, face-to-face, to understand the other person. Our boss challenged every staff member to visit nursery leaders every month to tour their operations and ask what keeps them up at night. We tracked every visit on a whiteboard and we reported to each other what we learned. It was powerful. As a city, we can publish more newsletters, we can host more open houses, we can post more postcards and blast out all kinds of polls and social media posts. But we're wasting valuable time and resources if we're not getting through. We won't get through if we don't understand the people we're trying to help. And the only way to know them is to consistently go out and learn about them with an open mind. This means senior staff meeting with people where they are. So things like one-on-ones with HOA presidents, business leaders, church pastors, team coaches, and club leaders every month, then reporting back so the rest of the staff can benefit and adjust the services to where they're valued the most by our citizens. I envision city staff proactively getting out and getting input from every community leader in Wilsonville throughout the year and acting on that input. Those community leaders in turn tell their neighbors, customers, and members how this city takes the time to reach out, listen, and act on what they learned. What a powerful message. Thank you.
Mary Elizabeth Harper.
Good evening to all of you that you give your time to this city. While Nathan, who is a neighbor of mine, speaks about the problems that he encounters with this openness and diversity and just wants to have the sewers working, I too want that. But I also want to speak on behalf of the need for diversity. When I came to this state, and over the period of time I have been here, I have learned that Oregon represents 2% of Blacks throughout the state. I, for one, here in Oregon, here in Wilsonville, when I first came here, I was amazed to know that there were very few Blacks here. As a descendant of a Native American family, as well as African American, I want to have that diversity and that openness and that ability for you to understand how to get more people of color within the scope of this city. This is a wonderful city. I have been very pleasantly surprised at the openness of people that I have encountered. But I don't want you to not be aware that there is a need for diversity. I want to encourage that. Do not do anything to push it back. Do what you can to push it forward. We need more of it. And I'm telling you, I have a lot of people that come up to me and say they're all so glad to see me in the community. It hasn't always been comfortable, but I don't want you to pull back on what you're doing. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Ellie Farugi.
Good evening. My name is Ellie Farugi, and I live in Wilsonville, and my address is on file. I'm here to also speak about DEI, diversity, and I want to first thank the city for recognizing the diversity in the city, for celebrating different diverse, groups with, recognizing them in the city. And so I just wanted to appreciate that. DEI is not just about preventing racial discrimination, as I researched it and understand it. It is also about women's rights, and it's about offering flexible work hours to people with families. It's also about disabled children in schools and preventing any kind of discrimination or biases. I myself, as a woman working in high-tech companies in the Silicon Valley, I do know how I was treated when everybody else were men. And I do remember how I was treated as a result of being a woman. So unless we have an alternative solution, because we don't live in a very ideal world where everybody's right, the minority and the and the minority groups' rights are recognized. And unless we have an alternative solution, I do want to also voice my friends when she asked for DEI to stay, and I would like to also request that it stays. Thank you very much for your time.
Christy Corno.
Good evening, Mayor O'Neill and councilors. Similar themes tonight, and mine is about community engagement, but it's more of an idea that I got from someone else. A few weeks ago, I actually sat down with one of our school district board members, and I wanted to hear everything that they're facing. They're facing very similar things, a deficit and all of that. And when we were talking, they asked me, Christy, do you know what our org chart looks like as a district? And I was like, no. And she said, well, it starts at the top with community. She's like, and then us 5 board members are underneath it, then the superintendent, and then the rest of the staff. And I was like, oh, that's a perfect visual. Like, that's such a beautiful picture of what we're all here doing. And even I thought of the city of Wilsonville, and I went on our website and I looked for our org chart, and I did find one on like a financial, I think it's like an annual financial package. I found one, but I thought that would be kind of a cool visual for the city of Wilsonville to have, even on our website, like just a good reminder of, it doesn't have to say the word community. Sometimes that word actually kind of bothers me, but it could say anything, the people of Wilsonville or citizens or whatever, but it would just kind of be something that, another type of North Star that we can all be reminded and look to and be like, okay, and then we can like be proud of it. When she said it to me, I saw she was really proud of this. She was like really, really proud. And I thought that would be kind of cool. So I thought I would just mention it. Thank you for your time.
Miranda Tate.
Good evening. I'm Miranda Tate, and my information is on file. I've lived in small towns all my life until moving to Wilsonville 2 years ago. Yet with well over double the population of my hometown, it is here in Wilsonville that I feel the greatest sense of community and belonging. I credit much of this cultivation of community to our city staff. With their leadership, we celebrate the changing of the seasons together, through spring daffodil planting near Graham Oaks, to Harvest Fest at the barn, and our tree lighting. The teachers in our district cultivate knowledge and help our children prepare for the world. Their dedication has led our school district to have the highest graduation rates in Oregon. Our smart drivers carry many of us to and from work. They also provide transportation for our seniors to doctor's appointments and their weekly grocery shopping. Library staff read stories to our children. They inspire creativity with the tiny art show, which is going on now, and many other activities. The innovation of the Parks and Rec staff is well known, from installing musical chimes for children and adults alike to play, to taking advantage of fallen trees after an ice storm to create a nature park. Our city parks are well admired. I live near Courtside Park. This space is so important to our neighborhood. Children play there every day, families picnic, and numerous people walk their dogs. My neighbor Skip was devoted to feeding treats to every passing dog. A funny and kind older man in a wheelchair, he proudly averaged 3 miles a day rolling our neighborhood, and his treat record was 21 dogs on a single day. He passed away a couple weeks ago, and his loss has been immeasurable to our neighborhood. I stopped by to see his wife and to bring her my condolences and some flowers. I was touched to see her kitchen full of bouquets and her mantle covered in cards. She and her daughter shared that the Parks and Rec team had also brought flowers and a card sharing their favorite memories of Skip. It is in reflecting on that moment that I understood how important our city staff are in cultivating our community. Leading through a lens of compassion and human dignity, they have cultivated this community and our connections. So to city staff, I say thank you for all your hard work. Your track record is well proven. This is certainly the best place I have ever lived in, and I trust your leadership in guiding Wilsonville into the future. I would also like to share that my North Star includes love for my neighbors, and I am in full support of loving them no matter their background. And so I commend us for accepting diversity, equity, and inclusion in our morals. Thank you.
Rick Wallace.
Hello, my name is Rick Wallace. My address is on the speaker card. I came up here because I wanted to announce that a couple community members and myself are working on a little organization we're calling Wilsonville Pride. And in case you're curious what the gay agenda is, you can check out our website, wilsonvillepride.org. And spoiler alert, it's about creating community and pathways to our neighbors. I grew up in Wilsonville from preschool through high school, and now I live here with my partner and love living here and run the UPS store. And growing up here, it was sometimes kind of hard, just not knowing, your place. And I didn't come out to my family until I was 24. Even though I had a very supportive family and friends, you just don't know. And so that's why I kind of want to do this Wilsonville Pride organization and help have visibility for the gay community in Wilsonville so that other people feel more comfortable and know that there's a community here to support them. And I really love what the DEI committee is doing in Wilsonville. I went to the speaker series last month and the meeting last week, and there's another speaker series tomorrow at the library that I invite everyone to go to. And yeah, that's all I got.
Julie Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Appreciate your time as well. I wanted to speak tonight, just reflect on the presentation earlier tonight about our smart transportation system and some of the ways I think it really has made Wilsonville a great place, and just reflect on how it got here, what it's doing for us today, and what it can do in the future. So and I didn't get to watch the entire work session, so you might have heard this already, but you can find the history of SMART on the city's website and a timeline, and you can see that over 30 years ago, the Wilsonville Chamber of Commerce members were noting that they were paying a TriMet transportation tax, which was required and still is required in the metro area, but they weren't seeing what they were getting for that. And so they came up with an idea, and it was early days. Someone came up with the idea, why don't we start our own transportation system? And at that time, it was okay to do that. And I believe it was a pretty small effort, and they had a new city manager who came along and was reviewing everything and let the city council know that, this is good. You've got a little transportation system, but according to the law, you have 5 years to make it a more significant transportation system to meet a certain threshold, or it will revert back to TriMet. So skipping ahead all those years, we have SMART that we have today, and we can ask the city manager to correct me if I'm wrong, or transportation director, but I think the rate that employers are paid on their payroll for the transportation tax in Wilsonville is something like 60% of what they would pay if TriMet. Is that about right? And so I think that's a great way to help our businesses. Many of our businesses are very well served by this by this service because people can, obviously ride smart to work. So when we talk about people who, we also talked about subsidized housing. That was mentioned a few times tonight. And if somebody is in the state in their life that they need to be in subsidized housing, they're probably thinking of ways they can remedy that. One of the things that really costs them money is owning a car. And there are a couple of websites that you can look up to find out the annual cost of owning a car. It changes from year to year. It's around $10,000 right now, I believe. So just think about, with our $1.3 billion annual payroll, which has continued to increase in Wilsonville, and our 1,200 businesses, our smart transportation system, just take a little pride in how that is helping individuals and businesses and our community get ahead. So thank you.
Bill Bagnall.
Good evening, Mayor and councilors. Thank you. I did not plan on speaking. I feel compelled to speak. I am joining my neighbors of all backgrounds in supporting the city's work in diversity, equity, and inclusion. I find it interesting that I'm here today, St. Patrick's Day. My father's very Irish, very redhead, favorite day of the year. When I came out to my dad years ago, he's a devout Catholic, Jesuit Catholic, and was conflicted. Didn't know what to do, didn't know what to say. He talked to his priest, and his priest basically told him, that is between me and the Lord. Your job as a father is to love your son. And I think of that love all the time, and he did. He never wavered in that love. I know that the country is seeing rampant Christian nationalism. I know some of you in this room have uttered homophobic slurs and have beliefs. I get that. We're all part of a community. But it's important to recognize and lift up those that can't come up here and speak for whatever reason. So I am here to give my strong voice to that work that I appreciate, and it's part of what I love living in Wilsonville for. Thank you.
Susan Reap.
Good evening. I wasn't intending to speak tonight, but after listening to so many comments about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, I find myself looking at everybody and thinking, here we are, we're all people, and I think we all want the same things out of our lives. We want housing, we want good health, we want a good community, we want to raise our children if we have them well, we want them to have good health care and good educations and be able to buy homes someday and so on and so forth. In other words, we don't want anything different no matter who we are or what race we are or what religion we are. We're all pretty much the same. Yet people that are opposed to DEI seem to be fairly upset or angry about it, and I don't understand why we find it to be threatening. And it's sort of a puzzlement to me, because we're just all really the same. And I don't think anyone's trying to harm anyone else. We just all want to be included. And I don't think it would hurt too much to think about that a little bit. I think that's all I have to say, really.
No one on Zoom? Okay. Thank you, everyone. Turning to counselor comments, liaison reports, and meeting announcements. Council President Berry.
Thank you. Thank you to everybody who comes to our city council meetings, especially those who are coming on a regular basis. I'm recognizing faces, and I really appreciate all your comments and participation, because that's what makes a city well-run, when we have lots of voices and we get to express our opinions and figure out what, the direction for the city to go. So thank you for that. So let's see, let me find my notes. Okay, so just to kind of summarize what I've been doing, I also, along with all my peers here, attended the City Council retreat this weekend. And on the first day, we spent the whole day talking about our personal strengths and personalities and how we approach problem solving, and then how we should do that as a team. I thought the time was really well spent. I took the survey 2 years ago when I joined the city council. It's a personality survey, and then I opened it up shortly before the retreat, and I thought, oh my goodness, these look like truths for me. And then I got to learn about our new city councilors, and the point of it was so that we all really love and care about Wilsonville, and that we want to set goals as for this council for the next 2 years, and that we all want to row the boat in the same direction, that we have different experiences and different perspectives, different education. We come to problem solving from different directions, but the city council is a team, and that we're working together and we do it in a respectful way. And I think that exercise was really well worth my time. And then the second day we spent on goal setting, and the mayor talked a little bit about that, so I won't. Let's see, so coming up, I have a few meetings for the city council that I'll be representing. Tomorrow, I'll be attending the Committee on Housing for Our Future. And then on Wednesday in the morning, I'll attend the Clackamas County C4 Subcommittee meeting, and then in the afternoon, the Tourism Promotion Committee. And then on next Tuesday, March 25th, I plan to attend, I'll be sitting in for the mayor on the Clackamas Board of Commissioners County Focus Group Strategic Plan, where they're going to talk about their goals for the upcoming years, for their priorities and their strategies of how to achieve those priorities. And then I want to talk about highlights. So one of the things that I really enjoy being on the council is getting the city council packet, and in the back of the packet, once a month, we get manager reports. And I always really enjoy reading all the different departments, find out what their activities have been. But of course, true to my heart is the library. And I wanted to point out that there's a couple of really fun activities that are coming up, events that people might not be aware of. You can always go to the city website and find out more, but I wanted to highlight on Thursday, March 20th at 1 p.m., there'll be a book walk with the library, and it's going to talk about the book Dreams of Scipio by Ian Pierce. And then that's for the younger group, but people that are interested in genealogy, there'll be a talk by Pam Vestal on Saturday, March 29th at 1:30 p.m. at the library. And then another activity that caught my eye that I thought looked really fun is Thursday, April 3rd at 6:30 to 8:30 over at the McMenamins Pub. There'll be a multicultural dance celebration. So I hope that people will attend and that they'll get to do lots of fun things with the city, because that's what helps build the sense of community. That's my report.
Councilor Dunwell?
Thank you, Mayor. Today I spent the day at the annual retreat for the Willamette Falls and Landing Heritage Area Consortium. And it is an organization that is, it includes mayors and council representatives from Canby, Oregon City, West Lynn, Donald, Wilsonville, of course, and it is all really to take a look at this entire heritage area along the original Willamette River, and when it was a fishing area, a trading area, and now obviously a recreational area, but really kind of looking backwards to our culture, to our history and our culture. And I do have a photo that one of the members gave to me today. And we talked at a high level, and we talked in details about what the future is. And the reason I want to bring this image up is because it ties to who we are as a community now. That is one of the crossings, I believe it's the Boone's Ferry crossing, and I could be wrong, but it's one of the crossings along the Willamette River. That was in 1908. My father was born 4 years later. He died in 1994. So, you know, we're always taking a look at what is in front of us, but it's always important to remember where we came from and to remember where we're going tomorrow. And it took the work of a lot of people working together to build this city as it is now. And individuals, even though they may come from different backgrounds and have different opinions and different views and different ethnicities, they all work together to get us to where we are today. And as we are moving forward, one of the things that I am so excited about is the collaboration that happened on Saturday of our council. We are a city that I believe that we are at a turning point as a community of either we are going to become split further apart or find a way to get to a yes and get together and work together as a community. And it's important to remember that time continues to go on. And 100 years from now, none of us will be here. No one will remember what car we drove. But, and our homes will probably not be in existence unless they're really built stout. And yet, by the same token, what we do today really will impact our children and our grandchildren. And when we are continually, finding a way to communicate as this together and really find a place of what we agree on as opposed to what we disagree on, how do you do that? You do it by starting to communicate. And I may have differing opinions about where I see this city going than maybe some of the people in this audience do, and maybe some of my councilor members, but I have a responsibility as a member of this council and as a citizen of this community to listen to them. And sometimes I might change my mind. So it's really important that we continue to work together. We listen to each other, and we also hear what the other is saying. It's okay to disagree. So I look forward to the continued work with this council. I do want to say one more thing, and that is tomorrow, the Housing Our Future Task Force has our last meeting. And that will be where we're actually going through the final dialogue of the representation for what we're going to bring in front of council. And as the chair of that task force, I can tell you that some of what we are doing, and I will reiterate what I've said before regarding this, we are continually being driven forward by some of the requirements that are that are given to us by the state without us necessarily getting the funding to execute. And so I know all of my council members share in the fact that we realize that we have to do what's achievable. It may not necessarily be what our ideal requirements are. We will follow some of these requirements, and yet I really take to task the folks at our legislature and the state to be able to say, you're giving us all of these requirements, and yet you're not allowing us the ability to be able to carry forward this without the funding. So I encourage you to listen. I encourage you to pay attention where all of this goes. Housing is very near and dear to my heart, and I want to make sure that what we're doing is right for the future of our state. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Dunwell. Councilor Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. So obviously attended the same weekend retreat as everyone else, and it was very enlightening. It was a good opportunity to get to know each other a little bit better. They even taught us each other's triggers, so that should be interesting. Well, I think we all have kind of quietly agreed not to try to push those buttons, but I guess we know them now. So, but it was a good opportunity to just grow our communication, our ability to communicate and work together as a team for our community. That's going to be important in the days ahead with decisions that come up before us that we may not always agree as a council, but we can do that respectfully and with some healthy disagreement. Hopefully we come to the best decision for the entire city. I was also kind of uplifted that as we were sitting there on the second day and working through our council goals, one of the staff members sitting next to me told me that we actually got through those goals extremely well and a lot and quite efficiently compared to some years past. So it was nice to hear that it was actually coming through and working in the moment. Today I was able to observe the Washington County Coordinating Committee meeting with our mayor being our main delegate. And I did take note, there was conversation in that meeting talking about improvements to the TV highway in Washington County and some of the struggles that they have with their transit system and how it's so shared between so many different communities that they're all kind of trying to grab a piece of the pie to try to get, the best transit set up for their community. And they're talking about maybe removing some options in some cities. And so it actually did, with the presentation today from SMART, the idea too that our business tax is significantly lower than what the businesses under TriMet have to pay. It does make me kind of proud of our SMART system and that we have that system here in place in town. Besides that, that's all I've got for tonight.
Thank you, Councilor Cunningham. Councilor Shevlin?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank all of you who have attended this evening and have spoken or have encouraged and come up with ideas that you want to represent or have represented in our community. We must be a diverse community because we have diverse opinions, we have diverse ideas, but we all do know that we want the best for our community. And that's what I learned with our council retreat as well. And I'm feeling very positive that we will be able to join together, not only as a council and with our city staff, but with all of you to make our best decisions for our community. I'm very excited about that. I've attended a lot of meetings in the last few weeks, and I'll just submit for the record to our city recorder the highlights. A few of them, though, I've attended several different required meetings on ethics for city elected leaders. Ethics are very important, so I've had 2 different sessions on that are required. So happy to have attended those. I plan on staying out of trouble and not creating any ethical dilemmas for myself or the city or the council and the mayor. You can count on that. I attended as an alternate 2 separate Clackamas County coordinating committees. These are cities in the Clackamas County that are both rural and medium-sized cities such as ours, and the mayor sits on that as the primary, but I serve as the alternate, so happy to attend those. I've met with various members of the community, some of whom are in the room, for dialogue, to learn about one another, what your views are about the city, so that I can incorporate those into what I hope to bring to the future for our community. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you reaching out to me and wanting to meet, and I'll always make myself available. I've met with several members of the Wilsonville Area Chamber of Commerce as well to see how we might work together to support one another and further our goals. A few other upcoming meetings that I have. I'm attending a meeting this week called Meet the Mayors. I believe our mayor will be there as well, so I'm happy to be there and meet some of the other mayors in our community, in our region, and see what we have in common. I plan on attending, once I find out where it is, Senator Aaron Wood's town hall this coming Saturday.
I did look at our website, and it's an RSVP, so if you get on our website and RSVP, they will send you the information.
Okay. All right, well, I hope that works out, and the number of people will be able to attend. Also this week in Charbonneau, the topic of the French Prairie Pathway is going to be addressed with our city manager and other city leaders. We'll be speaking to the residents of Charbonneau. Just to give you a little history, if you may not be aware, excuse me, Charbonneau was built in the middle 1970s, and there were no codes for any pathways. So those of you that live in areas where there are sidewalks and areas to walk and recreate without being concerned about being hit by a vehicle. I'm very jealous of that, but nevertheless, Charbonneau does have a portion of a walkway that the city paved and blacktopped over this last year, which we're appreciative of, because we did have some residents that fell and were injured because of the pathway being disturbed by roots, et cetera. But the purpose of this meeting this week is to listen to the community and see in Charbonneau what they're looking for in order to be able to safely use the existing pathways and roadways that we have, and also to listen to ideas from city and city engineers about what might be possible. So we're looking forward to that. Lastly, as a woman of Irish heritage and married to a man that's 100% Irish, I would like to offer an Irish blessing. As you slide down the banister of life, may the splinters never point the wrong way. So, as council members, I caution us against incurring any splinters and also inflicting any splinters upon our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Shevlin. The next item is our consent agenda. Will the city attorney please read the items on consent?
Resolution number 3189, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville granting an exemption from property taxes under ORS 307.540 to ORS 307.548 for Autumn Park Apartments, a low-income apartment development owned and operated by Northwest Housing Alternatives, Inc. Resolution number 3190, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville granting an exemption from property taxes under ORS 307.540 to ORS 307.548 for Charleston Apartments, a low-income apartment development owned and operated by Northwest Housing Alternatives, Inc. Resolution number 3191, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville granting an exemption from property taxes under ORS 307.540 to ORS 307.548 for Creekside Woods LP, a low-income apartment development owned and operated by Northwest Housing Alternatives, Inc. Resolution number 3192, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville granting an exemption from property taxes under ORS 307.540 to ORS 307.548 for Rain Garden Limited Partnership, a low-income apartment development owned and operated by Caritas Community Housing Corporation. Resolution number 3193, a resolution of the City of Wilsonville granting an exemption from property taxes under ORS 307.540 to ORS 307.548 for Wiedemann Park, a low-income apartment development owned and operated by Accessible Living, Inc., and minutes of the February 20, 2025 City Council meeting.
Thank you. I don't know how you do that. Do you want to try a second time? Just kidding. City Council President Barry, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to adopt the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion to approve the following order of agenda has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Okay. No other business? Yes. So next on is legal business regarding the Wilsonville Code, Chapter 3 interpretation.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll speak a little bit slower this time. For the record, City Attorney Amanda Guile-Hinman. So tonight I have for the City Council a memorandum interpreting Wilsonville Code provisions 3.340 and 4.300 through 4.320. These provisions generally govern the undergrounding requirements in the City of Wilsonville, and some of these have been in place since 1973. Portland General Electric has applied for a right-of-way permit in which it seeks to locate new high-voltage transmission lines and transmission poles along Southwest Grams Ferry Road. City staff have informed PGE that under Wilsonville Code Section 3.340, PGE must underground its utilities. The only exception in that section is that PGE may run a new transmission line on existing poles, but nothing in that section allows PGE to install new transmission poles. PGE has referred to a different provision, Wilsonville Code 4.310, to argue that high voltage transmission lines are exempt from undergrounding requirements, and thus it can install new transmission poles in any city right-of-way. However, Wilsonville Code sections 4.300 through 4.320 are the undergrounding requirements for new developments. And the exception that PGE refers to is the exception that new development does not need to underground existing high voltage transmission lines. Nothing in those provisions allow PGE to install new transmission poles in the city's right-of-way. PGE has disagreed with staff's interpretation of these Wilsonville Code provisions that I've just discussed. Thus, staff seek council direction whether it agrees with staff's interpretation as outlined in the memorandum provided. If council does agree, then staff seeks a motion to adopt the interpretations of Wilsonville Code 3.340 and 4.300 through 4.320 as described in the presented memorandum. And City Manager Cosgrove and I can answer any questions that the council may have about the situation.
Any questions? Okay. All right. City Council President Barry, can I have a motion to adopt the interpretations of Wilsonville Code 3.340 and 4.300 through 4.320 as described in the presented memorandum?
I move to adopt the interpretations of the Wilsonville Code 3.340 and 4.300 through 4.320 as described in the presented memorandum.
Is there a second?
A second.
Motion to approve the adoption of the interpretation of the Wilsonville Code as stated has been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Everything, except for one thing. Councilor Shevlin took the air out of my sails, but I'm going to do it anyway. From the O'Neill family, I leave you. We're doing
I got one too, man.
Are we going to compete? The O'Neills arrived in the 1840s to help build the Brooklyn skyline, and we immigrated west. But I leave you with this. May love and laughter light your days and warm your heart at home. May good and faithful friends be yours wherever you may roam. May peace and plenty bless your world with joy that long endures. May all life's passing seasons bring the best to you and yours.
And since that's lovely, mine's not going to be nearly as lovely as yours. This is from the Cosgrove clan of Ireland. This is passed down from generation. And since this is my last city council meeting, I think the only other time that I've been a city manager in 30 years where St. Patrick's Day landed on a Monday of a council meeting was 2018. So I want to show off my shoes real quick. Can I do this one? See, Republic of Ireland? Yeah, you're welcome. But this is one that my dad gave me when I was very young. May those that love us, love us. And if they don't love us, may God turn their hearts. And if he can't turn their hearts, may he turn their ankles so that we will know them by their limping.
So next, we'll do arm wrestling the Irish way. With that, the city council meeting is adjourned at 8:26 p.m.